a WYFF News 4 special.
It was coming up more and more.
We didn't have power for 2 months.
The Carolinas still reeling.
Get all washed away.
Everything's gone.
Nearly 8 months after Hurricane Helene ravaged the area.
A shock like I've never experienced before.
And rebuilding is just beginning.
It's going to take years.
Hurricanes are measured by their strength.
Never expected anything like this could happen to us ever.
But often reveal the strength of the communities they strike.
It was definitely a challenge, but, we pulled together.
Tonight, WYFF News 4, forecasting our future. Hurricane Outlook.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for our Forecasting Our Future Hurricane Special. I'm Chief Meteorologist Chris Justice, live in Chimney Rock at what is known as one of the ground zeros of Hurricane Helene in the western North Carolina mountains. 250 lives were lost from Helene across the United States, with more than 100 of those here in North Carolina. We're outside the Rocky Broad River, which where I'm standing would have been about 20 feet underwater. And this rush of water came down, remapping out some of the river and taking away a large part of Chimney Rock. In fact, check out this video here of where things were right after Helene and where they stand now, because we are 8 months removed from Helene, and some spots look like it was just yesterday. A lot of Band-Aids, a lot of temporary fixes have gone up just to allow crews, allow residents to get in here and start the process of rebuilding, of recouping here. You see the debris from Chimney Rock up against the bridge going into Lake Lure. Back out here live, I want to join in here. Mayor Pete O'Leary here of Chimney Rock. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
Tell me, looking at that video, seeing it all, I'm from here, so I have some ties here, but there have been times today that I have walked around Chimney Rock and thought, where am I? It's a little disorienting. Take me back to the day after when we saw that video of Chimney Rock just seemingly in the river.
It was hard to imagine. Even though we were seeing it, I was walking through the town and just viewing everything, and it just didn't seem real. And it was just hard to kind of wrap your head around it, the devastation that had happened. And even today, you mentioned 8 months. It's hard to believe it's been 8 months, and we've been working hard every day. But there's still so much devastation, and this is just such a massive job that, again, it's still hard to wrap our heads around what happened.
A big undertaking. I mean, you go back to 2004, you go back to the 90s. There were big floods, but looking back at those, nobody could have imagined this.
Exactly. Yeah, it was, and I was actually not here the day it happened. I came in 2 days later, but everyone I've talked to describes a 20-foot wall of water coming through the gorge on top of what was already the highest water that any of us had seen. So one of my neighbors described it as apocalyptic, and they even felt like they were watching a movie. Again, it was just something, it's hard to imagine.
Well, it takes me back, you rewind 9 months ago, this where we're standing would have been a spot you'd take your kids, you'd have dinner, walk around with some ice cream and just enjoy the nice river. We're standing in a spot that the river used to be.
That's right. We would be very close to where the Chimney Rock Brewery was, so a lot of people would sit there and actually sit with their feet in the river, enjoying a beer after work. Kids would be playing in the river. The ice cream shop was right behind us on this side. So, I can remember those places, but then when I look around, it's like everything's changed. They're not here.
Well, you told me that we're going to get there. We're going to get back to those kind of seemingly dreams one day. Tell me what you need right now from the community not to forget about you.
Well, I do try to remind people not to forget about us because, disasters come and go, unfortunately, but this has impacted us so much, and it's going to take so long, literally years to rebuild. And we do need people to continue to support us. Once we reopen, we'd love to have people come and visit Chimney Rock Park. We will be open this summer, and just look for that on our Facebook and our website. And we will also be posting ways that people can help on those different pages too.
Well, Mayor Pete, you have our commitment at WYFF4 that our megaphone to the community will keep shining a light on you guys, and when you're open, we're going to be the first to shout it to the rooftops. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, The rain was a big thing. The wind was also a big thing with Hurricane Helene. In fact, as we were broadcasting that morning, we were reporting power outages of almost 900,000 people. I looked at my phone and thought, that's almost every single person in our community. Perella Lewis joins us right now with a story on how the flood and the winds took over at Easley Home.
This is my dream. Got all washed away. That is the living room.
It was a once-in-a-lifetime storm.
That was all kitchen area there.
A storm so catastrophic
I'm thinking the water got right to there.
that it claimed everything Scott Hackett and Sandy Crivero owned in a matter of hours.
It's all mold. All of it. Black.
On Friday, September 27th, 2024, Sandy was awakened early.
We woke up at 5 a.m. because the power went out. And he got up and he looked out back and there was rainwater in the field, but that was it.
But just 2 hours later,
I noticed that, well, the toilet was bubbling is why I went in there.
I was in the living room and I could hear blah, 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 blah. What is that?
Well, I looked in the floor vent, the water was right there.
Come right up through there.
and the water from the Saluda River kept coming and rising fast.
It was up the couple of stairs and starting to come in under the back door.
It was coming up more and more, and it's like, we got to get out of here.
They called the emergency number they were given.
We got a foot of water in the house right now.
And within minutes, help arrived on a boat.
We've been through hurricanes in Maine and Massachusetts that never did anything like this because we weren't near a river. But
our cameras were there as the couple was rescued from what was supposed to be their forever home.
I guess we stayed in here too long. It was low and then it just came on.
I mean, we lost everything. I don't have pictures of my kids. He doesn't have pictures of his kids. And I had a lot of photos of me as a child, my family, my parents. Everything's gone.
Things that can never be replaced were either lost in the storm or had to be thrown away because of extensive damage by Helene.
Christmas was really hard for me. I lost my brand new Juki sewing machine that I had dreamed about my whole life having. I finally had it, barely could use it, and we threw it in a dumpster.
Even the shed in the back of their home was loaded with special items that are now ruined.
It's my baby. She was pretty.
Like Scott's Harley Davidson motorcycle.
2012 Road King. Junk, probably.
Never expected anything like this could happen to us, ever.
And it all happened so fast. A home that was full of good memories and hope for the future.
Got 2 more bedrooms here.
Now serves as a painful reminder of what one big storm can do.
I don't know what to think. It's like, why?
To a home.
I just got to forget about it.
To a property.
I just got to go on.
To a life.
Walking away with pretty much nothing.
The home is up for sale, but will likely need to be torn down. Scott and Sandy left the state to start over with nothing but a camper, their dog Duke, and a hope that something like this never happens again. Perella Lewis, WYFF News 4.
Well, thank you, Perella. Still to come, rebuilding the River Arts District. Coming up, meteorologist Victoria Kokinos takes us to Asheville. Welcome back. I'm live in Chimney Rock, where some 25 inches of rain came down in a matter of 2 to 3 days around Helene. All of that rain coming down these mountains into rivers like the Rocky Broad. But the Swannanoa, the French Broad, and Asheville also rose rapidly to levels that were 11 feet above previous records. Not 11 inches, 11 feet. Our Victoria Kokinos takes us to the River Arts District.
Helene brought 25 feet of water that caused mass destruction to the River Arts District. Out of the 26 buildings here, some are still rebuilding. But nearly 8 months later, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
it's still a little raw.
Once the storm had subsided, Jeffrey Burrows, president of the River Arts District Artists, was one of the first to see the damage Helene had caused.
It was gut-wrenching, a shock like I've never experienced before.
The torrential rain and rushing French Broad River's flooding led to mudslides,
I've never experienced anything like this.
engulfing the art on the walls of the galleries.
We still have 350 artists looking for home space to continue their work.
Could be in New Orleans by now because everything flows to the Mississippi and then down. So, yeah, there's Western North Carolina art all over the world now.
Artists and gallery owners Michael Campbell and Julie Bell were on vacation when Helene hit.
That was all lost.
We lost our personal art, creation stuff, our art, all our friends' art, and everything it takes to run a business.
Because they were on the road, they became communicators, and their studio, once it was back in working order, a new home for the uprooted artist.
They were like, don't come home, we need you on the road, because we were changing the website to update it with what was happening in the River Arts District.
Julie and Michael credit the artists and volunteers in their community with getting them back up and running.
They were here hauling garbage, painting walls, and then artists would get reports from people, hey, I found this or found that. And once in a while, something could be salvaged.
So right about here at 5
That collaborative spirit was one of the things that attracted Beth Keller-Hawes to Asheville in the first place.
A couple months before Helene hit, I signed the lease on this space here in the Rad on Depot Street.
She was planning to open Butter Punk Bakery.
We had just started trenching so that we could do the plumbing for our espresso machine when Helene hit. And knowing that a big storm was coming, I thought, okay, we're kind of elevated, we're gonna be okay.
But like many others,
I came to the shop and it was just covered in so much mud, I couldn't get anywhere near it.
Beth saw the heartbreak Helene left behind.
Basically, my hopes and dreams were covered in mud.
After months of hard work, Butter Punk is now open, and Beth is excited for the future.
We're not gonna give up on Asheville. We are here. We are here for the long haul.
A future made possible with
our community.
This community.
You know, I think the future holds a vibrant and beautiful place for the River Arts District.
If you would like to help in the rebuilding process, you can visit the link at our website, WYFF4.com. In the River Arts District, meteorologist Victoria Kokinas, WYFF News 4.
Still to come, meteorologist Sydney Sullivan explains how students here in Western North Carolina went from being taught to keeping their community strong. Well, welcome back. Students following Hurricane Helene had to go from being taught to applying life skills. Mountain Heritage High School in Burnsville had to start applying that to their community the hours after Helene struck. Meteorologist Sydney Sullivan takes us to Burnsville.
We just woke up that morning and it was almost like a fever dream. And once we got, dug out, and we got to see the damage, across the whole county, it really was an eye-opener.
It was like a movie.
A storm that left a lasting impression on the Carolinas.
Woke up Friday morning and we had no signal, no power, no cell service, no radio. We couldn't get in contact with anyone.
September 27, 2024. Even with all the noise and devastation, silence struck. Homes gone, roads washed out, trees and power lines down, communities forever changed. But amid the chaos, one goal stood above the rest: saving lives.
I woke up every morning around 6, 7 o'clock, drove to the fire department on an ATV. We done welfare checks, helped people get in and out of homes. We brought water, we brought food, we brought supplies.
Working from dusk until dawn, picking up whatever pieces were left.
It took several weeks for some people to even get out of the locations that they were at.
Classrooms turned into command centers.
There were 350 search and rescue, National Guard people living in our school.
Heartbreak and devastation became unity.
There's always a brighter day coming. You should try to leave the world a better place than how you found it.
And despite Helene leaving its mark, Mountain Heritage High School leaned on faith and heart to make a difference.
Once we realized we were in the hundreds of homes lost, at least 1,500 structures that are completely wiped out, we knew that the program was in a unique position to help.
And when students were finally able to return back to school 7 weeks later, they jumped right into giving back to the community, one home at a time.
when something like this happened, it was more of they need it more than we do. So we all kind of banded together.
A carpentry class, becoming the blueprint for resilience.
This is my dream team. That's what I call them.
They made use of every board, every screw, and every spare hour.
Opportunity to teach something like empathy, character, giving back, paying it forward.
One nail at a time.
Well, the great thing about the process of the tiny homes is it speeds up the building process, but the students still learn all of the construction.
And 12 to 15 weeks later, new beginnings for those who lost everything.
Some of us showed up on snow days. Some of us showed up, even when no one else was here.
It will take years to rebuild, but hope is already rising.
They were eager to get back to work. They were tired of being home. Their hard work it's very telling of who they are.
And sometimes, hope starts with a symbol.
That flag I pulled out of the river on Salto River, that flag represents what was lost because that was on a structure that was very near and dear to a lot of people in this community. So I dug it off the top of a tree and I brought it in here and I said, guys, we're building for this.
As the school year comes to a close, these students walk away with more than a diploma. They carry the weight of what was lost and the pride of what was rebuilt.
Appalachian strong, there's no doubt about it.
In Burnsville, I'm meteorologist Sydney Sullivan, WYFF News 4.
Well, as you can imagine, there will never be another Hurricane Helene ever named again. Like Katrina, like Andrew, they retired names that do such destruction. Meteorologist Dale Gilbert joins us right now with the history of how we name storms.
Do you ever wonder why hurricanes have names? Well, we know that each year as the oceans warm with the summer heat, the moist ocean air from the increased evaporation is fuel for storms that will develop. The National Hurricane Center has produced lists of names years in advance so we can track these storms throughout the season from June 1st to November 30th. They can and have come earlier than those dates, but typically most develop during that seasonal range. Names are easier to track and remember than longitude and latitude stats. The list will alternate between male and female names and contain 21 names to start. Should any of those names reach major storm status with catastrophic loss, then that name is retired from use and it's now part of weather news history. Like in 1954, Hazel hit the South Carolina coast. 35 years later, Hugo hit in 1989. And again, 35 years later, Helene came along. All devastating, deadly hurricanes, all 35 years apart, and all H storms. What are the odds of that? Names begin with tropical cyclones reach sustained winds of 39 miles an hour. How active hurricane season becomes can vary with many factors involved worldwide. This year's list begins with Andrea, and the last name is Wendy.
Dale, thank you so much. Let's hope we don't have to retire any names this year. Speaking of, I've poured over the data. I've got new model information to show you what you can expect for this hurricane season. Well, welcome back to our live hurricane special here in Chimney Rock, North Carolina, an area that is still recovering and rebuilding. We're going to pray that there are no hurricanes this year that come inland to the Western Carolinas. We could use a break, right? But we need to look at the data and show you where things go from here, because there are signs that things could begin to get active again in a matter of about 10 days in the Caribbean. Let's show you first where hurricanes normally start to form. We normally get a little bit of action in June, but it's typically July, August into September that the peak of hurricane season approaches. In fact, the statistical peak of hurricane season is usually September 10th. As we look at the data right now, the water temperatures across the Atlantic are warm. In particular, there's an area of the Caribbean and in the Gulf. It's more shallow water. It can typically get warmer faster this time of the year, and cold fronts just don't have the punch that they do in the wintertime. So there's an area that has what we call tropical heat energy. It's this area in the Caribbean that we'll need to keep an eye on in the next 10 days. In fact, there are a few models that show a weak low pressure system bubbling up right here off the Yucatan Peninsula and then moving east over Cuba. Right now, nothing in our computer model shows impact in the United States, which is certainly good news. There are some indications that we can track the heat content in the Atlantic this time of the year. Last year, we had record ACE, Atlantic Cyclone Energy. It was at 210. For perspective, right now the ACE, as we start the season, is at 155. So there's a silver lining of we don't have quite as much juice in the atmosphere as we did this time last year. However, as we look at what ingredients lead up to an active hurricane season, no El Nino. When we have that in place, it's typically a season that we need to watch. Warm sea surface temperatures, we have that as well. And then when you have lowering of the pressures, like what we have in the Caribbean, along with that warmer energy right there, you have to watch that area. But typically speaking, El Nino is one of the biggest factors of a hurricane season. The Nino factor, as we call it. The southern jet stream is just, simply speaking, more active, and it can be the hurricane killer. It can sometimes be a more active jet, and as waves roll off the coast, as you can see here, they usually will get disrupted, or at least interrupted, to where it doesn't get as strong as a hurricane moves off toward the west. But we don't have that this year. Unfortunately, we are heading into what we call a La Nada year. There's not an El Nino, there's not a La Nina. So when we look at the data of that, the last El Nino was 2023. The last La Nina had many record seasons. So the absence of El Nino is kind of what we're looking for here. Now, something we'll keep in our back pocket that we can track some 2 weeks out is typically the Saharan dust. It is a cyclical, normal thing that comes off the African coast. When that happens, if you can get a prolonged period of time, which you hope happens right around the active part of hurricane season, it can squash development. Right now, we have that dry air in place all the way to Puerto Rico into the Caribbean. We'll hope that stays. So let's get right to the forecast. What we're expecting this year is a slightly above average season. Normally we get 14 named storm systems. This year we're expecting 17 named storm systems. 7 hurricanes would be normal. We're expecting 9. And 3 major hurricanes would be normal. We're expecting 5. Now, a great tool that you can have to keep safe during hurricane season is the WYFF4 mobile app. We give you the forecast when you need it, right there in your pocket, because we know you're on the go. And our team is committed here at WYFF News 4 to keep you posted along the way. Not only during the storm, but we like to update you well before the storm, as anything would come your way. We hope you enjoyed our broadcast tonight, and remember, stay with the WYFF News 4 weather team throughout hurricane season. Have a good evening.